All right, how's it going, guys? It's Steve again. Another market report. So I'm gonna put the big sale kind of as the lead-in photo, but I'm gonna get to that one at the end. Um, so we're gonna just kind of go through. I got about, I think, like 45 different comics that have sold in the past few weeks. So this is kind of like late September, very early October. Um, so here we go. We've got a German X-Men 1 9.4 CGC, sold for $52. That seems like a pretty inexpensive sale. These can sell anywhere from $10 to $50 raw. This not a bad deal. It's 9.4, so it's not super high, like the highest grade. I'm sure there's 9.8s on here since this is a more recent book. I think this one was printed in 2001, around there, maybe a little later. But $52, that seemed like a no-brainer. If you're building like an X-Men 1 set, just rather buy this slab than raw, and save yourself that money. So that was a good deal for whoever bought that. This is a Green Lantern 1, the German edition. This is, I guess, tells the origin of the Green Lantern. I'm not a huge Green Lantern fan. You can still find these. So there's one sitting on German eBay for, I think it's real low grade, but I think it's less than $20. This one looks much nicer, higher grade for $145. To me this is kind of just a goofy looking book, goofy cover, but I also don't collect Green Lantern, don't really know much about the character, so this isn't something I'd be after. But someone that's diehard Green Lantern fan, they'd be all over this. So $145, not a terrible deal. It's a from 1975, so it's not Silver Age or anything, but it's still a cool book. Got a Spawn 227, the ASM 300 cover homage. This is a German edition, sold for $95. Just that classic 300 pose. And this, I'm sure is probably, an expensive book on the American market. So the German edition's a way to get it cheaper. I don't really know what they sell for. I don't really know much or collect much Spawn either. Green Lantern and Spawn, not my forte. But still, it's a good looking book. All black cover. This one looks pretty high grade. All right, so we've got the Alex Ross, no panties, Harley Quinn, German edition. So these just keep creeping up. These are two different ones, obviously same seller, and they both sold same day. So sold for $170. So these just keep moving. They were, I think I've just kind of followed the progression from 75 to 100, 125, 150. Now we're going 170. So we'll see. Let's see if 190, 200's next. These are just kind of a couple more minor keys, like the first Madam Web from Germany that sold for $30, and then the first appearance of him, aka Warlock, sold for $49. So nothing crazy there. So this guy in Greece is back selling his cover sets of like European books. So this is Amazing Spider-Man 8. So this is the German, Italian, and then 2 Greek editions, sold for $99. So, not a bad deal, honestly, because, to get those each individually shipped from their respective countries, it was cheaper just to buy this lot, probably. So here, here's the German giant size X-Men 1 that was printed around that same time as that regular X-Men 1 that I showed you from Germany. So this was signed by Stan Lee and was a 9.6, and this one sold for $1,200. So this book in 9.6 without Stan Lee's signature is probably, a $50, $60, $100 book, maybe $200 on a really good day. So this signature really added a lot to it. It's a really cool book. It's not an old book. It was printed, let's see if we can read it. I believe it was 99 or 2001, around there. I can't really zoom in on it. But, Someone wanted it signed by Stan Lee, and then, these present great. They look exactly like the original, just translated into German. So yeah, big markup there for Stan Lee's signature. I think my phone froze. Hold on one sec. There we go. Sorry about that. A little phone issue there. All right, so here we've got German Tomb of Dracula 10. Yeah, it's got some creases, got a little bit of writing on the cover, but sold for, looks like $1.99. Best offer accepted. So we'll have to, some of these the best offer accepted books. I'll have to go do a little research on what the actual sale price was. But yeah, this one says it was $1.99, but sometimes the eBay sold listings it's not very accurate. You gotta dig a little deeper sometimes. But this is kind of the range they were selling for, between right around $200 for a decent looking copy. There were a couple outlier really high sales from a while ago. But this, I mean, $1.99, I could see that. To me, in my head, it still sounds high. But these aren't coming up like they used to. So I get it. So $200 seems like the kind of around the going rate these days. So these still surprise me. This is the Italian Batman Adventures 12. This isn't the cover. This is the internal story. So two sold on the same day, same seller, for $120 or $110 for one and $120 for the other. And it has the cover of, I think, Batman Adventures 11 or 10, but it contains multiple stories inside. So you just have the stories on the interior. And really, this is kind of like I've explained in other videos. This is more of a recent phenomenon. Not really, something people collected that long ago. And these probably would have been $10 books, 2 years ago. But there's kind of a new crop of collectors that are interested in these interior stories, and they want like the interior first appearance of Harley Quinn, or the interior first appearance of Blade. So I think that's interesting, because for so long most foreign collectors only cared about the cover. So the first appearance of Blade in Spain on a cover is, I think, from the late 80s. But the story was printed multiple times before that, strictly on interior stories. And before, people didn't care about that stuff. You could buy it, and it was hard to sell unless it was like Hulk 181 or like a big major key. People just didn't care. So that's kind of an interesting thing that's changed. And it's something I'm trying to understand. And I have a few, like I've bought a couple of those Blade books, and people want them. They sell quick. So it's something to think about if you're somebody that kind of like me, that buys. I find something I want in a foreign country, but I buy pretty much every key that seller has, just to kind of flip those to pay for my purchase. So we can't count out the interior stories anymore, because they're selling pretty well as well. A couple of Italian books here. We've got a Spider-Man 667 Italian, which I didn't even realize at first had Delato's autograph on it. That one sold for less than $89, so that's probably a pretty good deal if you could send that to CBCS and it was in high grade. That would be a pretty cool book to have. And then the Captain Marvel 14, first Kamala. It's like a foil cover. Pictures don't do this book justice. It's really pretty in person. I'm not a huge Captain Marvel fan or Kamala Khan fan, but I've got one, and I actually had it for sale. I think I was asking $50 for it. The last time I had like an Instagram sale, but luckily it didn't sell. and then obviously people want it because this one sold for 100. So I think it's a book that is going to be desirable. Just when you compare it to the American version, which isn't a foil, it's just flat colors, versus this Italian foil, and the foil just stands out 100 times better, and it looks so much better. So we've got a pretty nice looking Fantastic 448 from Italy. These are pretty tough to find. This one sold for $250. Best offer accepted. A Spider-Man 50. This is like the second run, so this is the second time this was printed in Italy, or at least the cover was used. So this one sold for $85, and this is I can't pronounce it, the L'Uomo Ragno Gigante, which means it's like magazine format. So they did the original, like the Corno run from Spider-Man 1 till I don't even know how far they went, pretty far, and then they started redoing it again in the late 70s. So the first run started in 1970, and then the second run probably started in 76 or 77, I would think, so since it's 78, and they were at number 50. But there's some pretty good keys in this Gigante run. You've got the Spider-Man 50, you've got the 129, and I think there's a couple other keys. Each issue, I think, contains at least 2 comics, interior stories, so they don't, they skip covers. But cool book, $85, not a bad deal. Secret Wars 8, first symbiote costume, sold for $80. This is from Italy. Looks pretty clean copy, pretty nice looking copy. Another one of those Fantastic 4 and 5 double keys from Italy. This looks probably like it's shipped from America, an American seller. This sold for $109. So you've got first Silver Age Namor and first Doctor Doom, both on the cover, so pretty cool. So this is a Greek X-Men Adventures 1. I didn't bother looking this one up, but it seemed like kind of expensive, even if they got $25 for it. This X-Men Adventure 1, it's kind of come up as a key lately, I guess, because they're coming out with the Disney Plus show. They're going to kind of continue the cartoon from the 90s, which we all grew up on. But someone might be just building this set and they needed the Greek one real bad. But yeah, I wouldn't think this would be too expensive on the Greek market. Somebody got a good deal on this one. This one snuck probably through $60, actually less than $60 for Spider-Man 1 from Greece. And this, I think, this is the first print. But I did look at the photos, and this one was in really bad condition. It's hard to tell, but the spine was pretty much completely split. I'm not even sure if the cover was attached or not. But still, somebody wanted it, and for that price, it's probably not too bad of a deal if you don't mind a low-grade copy. This is a Hebrew Star Wars 1. So these were printed in the reverse format, so they were read from left to right. So the spine is on the right side, which is the really cool thing about the Hebrew and Arabic books. But unfortunately, the Hebrew did not start their Star Wars with like the classic Star Wars 1 cover that we all know and love. They started like after the movie adaptation, so I think that kind of makes it, at least to me, much less attractive. Normally, if I'm looking for Star Wars books, foreign books, I'm not looking for anything that, unless it adapts one of the movies. And typically, I'm just looking for like the first 3 or 4 issues of the original Star Wars run. But somebody that's a Star Wars fan is going to want this, especially if they're building like a Star Wars foreign set. So this one sold for $120, and Hebrew books are extremely difficult to find, so it's probably not a terrible deal. It looks lower grade, but still not going to be something that's easy to find. Oh, and then I showed that they had also, or somebody had Star Wars number 3 from the Hebrew comics. They're printed by Kevin Comics. That's the name of the publisher, and one sold as well around the same time as. Actually, no, this one's old. This is August 27th, so that one sold a while ago, but still took some good, decent money. So we've got the new Mexican chrome foil Spider-Man 300 that's out. These are just hot off the press in Mexico. You could only buy if you had a Mexican address. They do this to kind of keep the American speculators at bay, but it's not going to happen. Everyone that buys foreign comics has a connection in Mexico that we could easily have us get a few copies for us. But it's a beautiful book. My problem with it is it's just a direct cover. It's just the American cover but chrome. Like they didn't change the no part of the cover is in Spanish. And then that's just kind of something that annoys me. If I'm collecting foreign books, I want the cover and the interior guts in the native language of the country I'm buying it from. So it would have been cool if they would have paid homage to like the original Mexican Spider-Man 300 and called it Hombre Araña or something like that. But there's probably going to be a lot of guys selling these, and they're getting decent money for them, anywhere from $50 to $100. And I think they were buying these probably for less than $10 a piece. I think some are still available. You got to just, like I said, have that Mexican connection. But I see these, hitting CGC and the 9.8 selling for probably a couple $100 here in the next few months. But, it's a cool book. Not really like I said in the last couple videos, not really my cup of tea, the way these foreign publishers are just pumping out rehashing these same covers over and over again that they've already done, sometimes back in the original print run, and then again, and then again, and then I think this is the third or fourth time Mexico did this cover. So it is what it is. So here we go. Why would you buy that when you could just get the original, in my opinion? So here we've got Spider-Man 300 from Mexico, 1989. Decent condition for $135. So in my head, I would never even think about buying this when I could just continue to buy copies of this for not that much more money. But like I said, if you're building the set, you're going to want them all. So you'll need both of them. This is the Kaliman Mexican Galactus cover. This one sold for $125. And these were, they reused art, I guess, that was used on the Kaliman from Colombia, and those were printed in the 60s, and then these were printed later on, more modern time, but just classic, classic Marvel characters reused for Kaliman covers. So it's pretty cool stuff. I had one of these, and actually ended up selling it to a guy that lives in Australia. He's a big Galactus collector. And he really wanted it, so I was like, all right, I had it for sale. I forget what I had just bought, but I needed some money, so I sold my copy. But maybe one day I'll be able to get another one. $300 for a Mexican Wolverine 13 signed by J. Scott Campbell. Pretty hard to get these Mexican books in high grade, so probably not a terrible deal, especially with the signature. Here's another one of those chromium Spider-Man 300s for $95. So, getting pretty close to the price of the original there. So I think I showed a few weeks ago someone had bought one of these for over $300. Here's one for $15 with free shipping from Canada. Can't tell if it was pulled from a Comic-Orama or not. It's hard to tell. It looks low grade no matter what. But still, just a classic cover. G.I. Joe French. G.I. Joe 1 sold for $50. And then here's a couple French-Canadian keys. The Iron Man 55 is actually one I've been looking for a while, so I'm kind of bummed I missed out on this. Not sure if I would have spent that much money on it, but, still a cool book. Thanos is kind of I feel like past, his time in the limelight is kind of past. So, I would have would have thought these would start going down in price, but it's still a big key, and that original run of Avengers movies is going to be like classics forever. So I guess his these Iron Man 55s are probably going to hold value pretty well over time, or even maybe go up in value. As people kind of get, the people that were kids when these Avenger movies came out will start to get nostalgic about them. Who knows, in 20, 30 years. And then the other one is Daredevil 1 from Heritage Edition, French Canadian Comics. Unfortunately, they didn't use the #1 cover. They used the #2 cover. So, yeah, I think that'll kind of limit that book from going too crazy, but still a cool book. We've got, this is Fantastic 467, first appearance of him / Warlock. And here they just, busted Warlock out of the cocoon right here on the cover. It's kind of a, I really like these French repainted covers. I can't remember the guy's name, Frizen something, from France, but he did some good art for these Marvel lug books from France. But it's sold for under $50. This is the French French Ultimate Fallout 4. This one sold for $189. So we're gonna check in here with the Russian 181. So it looks like we've got one sold for $160. So that's a pretty high price on that one. We got one sold for $67, and then another one sold for $65. So this one's from July, so that's an older one, but these things still seem to be trending up over time. All right, so to Brazil, we've got the Spider-Man 13, first appearance of Mysterio, low-grade copy. Looks like it's got some tears on the spine, but really cool coloring on this book. I like this one a lot, from Brazil. This one sold, so $60, best offer accepted. Then we've got a Spider-Man 300 from Brazil, 6.0 slabbed CGC, sold for probably less than $200. So 6.0, that's probably pretty average. I feel like this is a kind of a newer book, so trying to find one higher grade. It's Brazil, but you should be able to find one a little bit higher than 6.0, I would think, if you really wanted one to slab. But still a cool book, and not entirely easy to find. They do come up often enough, but trying to get one in decent condition might take you a little bit. So here we've got the Fantastic Four #1 UK pence variant. Pretty terrible looking condition. Says $7,900, best offer accepted, $100 for shipping. So that's seems like a pretty high price for that, but I don't really follow what the American edition sells for. I'm sure it's an insane amount, so maybe that's not a bad deal. So this is the Batman 61 from the UK, slab 3.5, sold for $400. Just kind of a classic looking Batman cover, old kind of Batman logo, fun book, and seems like a pretty high price to me. But you just never know with DC, and some of these books sell for super high, some sell for super low. In this golden age Batman stuff, I'm not too familiar with what's a key and what's not a key, but a lot just I think has to do with how good the cover looks, I guess. So Dracula Lives 21, aka Tomb of Dracula 10 from the UK, a magazine size book. This one looks pretty good condition and sold for $92, which actually seems pretty kind of cheap compared to the other ones. So if a German's selling for $200, I'm surprised this one didn't sell for more, but it was an auction, so they might have done better if they would have just asked $150 or $200 and just sat on it for a little bit. We've got Deadline 1. This is the first appearance of Tank Girl. This is like a UK magazine, I guess. from 1988, sold for $310. And is this Strange Tales 11, or what is it? No, what number is this? Strange Tales? I can't remember. It's first appearance of Doctor Strange. He's not on the cover. Human Torch on the cover. But this one sold for $705. And I forget, someone was saying in one of the chats that this is the exact same one that just sold at Heritage. And it sold for like $300 at Heritage. And this person, within a week, looks like doubled their money. Or maybe it was a couple weeks, but doubled their money on eBay, selling it for $705. So that makes you a little nervous about this heritage auction that's coming up here pretty shortly. Is it going to get as much exposure? And are those guys that buy on Heritage interested in foreign comics? They sell pretty well on eBay, some getting way higher prices than I would expect on eBay. So Heritage could have that same effect, or it could just not have that much interest. I don't know. They just haven't done much to advertise it that I've seen. It's pretty much been the guys that have books in the auction kind of self-promoting, which, is the smart way to do it, since, they gotta get the word out there. But hopefully everything goes well. I think it starts next week or the following week. But hopefully everyone makes some money that put their books in there, and, this could be a big day or a big week for foreign comics. So speaking of, let's see here. We'll go through a couple more. So this is the Spider-Man wedding issue, the German fan edition reprint. It's magazine size. This one sold for $199, which is much more than I've ever seen them sell for before that I can think of. The guys that made these sold them for $8 a piece, and they made a couple different versions of it. This is what I call like the second print, because up here they wrote German fan edition, and then they actually like wrote the modern date that it was printed, because they got a little bit of a slack for basically creating a perfect fake of the Mexican book, even though it is completely a different size and format. But some people just looking at the cover wouldn't be able to tell the difference, so they changed it. The original print, the first print, had none of that. It was just a perfect copy of the El Sobradente Hombre Araña 128 cover. So I've got one of the originals. Obviously, these, most people probably don't even realize there's two different printings of it. But this one sold for $200, so that was a pretty solid price for that. It's low price on this, considering that we've got a Black Panther movie about to come out, but I guess maybe just people aren't interested in that Black Panther anymore. So this one sold for $49. All right, and then this was a Hulk 180 from Canada, French Canadian, sold for $95. So this is like the first cameo of Wolverine in there. So $95 seems like a decent deal. Probably pretty cheap actually for what it is. But a lot of times people, the seller from Canada just probably doesn't realize that this book is really desirable. But he got $100 for it, so probably in his head that sounded pretty good. And this seemed pretty cheap. I feel like I've seen these sell for way more than this. This was $29 for a Batman 1 Delato Joker cover. I feel like these were selling like for at least $100 or more not that long ago, but I don't know. I guess and it's a good looking cover. But this one went real cheap for $29. And then another French Delato. So this is a 9/6 X-Men 85. It's like a Beast cover. I'm pretty sure this was only used in Europe. And this one sold for $375. All right, and this one kind of blew my mind. This is a super low grade Scooby-Doo 1 from Norway. Sold for $325. I've got the Mexican version of this book, and kind of thought about getting a couple other ones just because Scooby-Doo's pretty fun to have. But I don't think I'll be paying that much for no matter what country it's from, even for the American one. But it's a cool book. The kind of crazy colors on this Norwegian version, and interesting like font, and like I don't know how they say Scooby Doo up there, but it's interesting how they spell it. And I think this is the last one before I get to the big sale. So yeah, this is the Marvel Spotlight 5 from Spain. This is a digest sized book that contains Spotlight 5 and 6, I believe, inside, with original cover drawn by the Lopez Espy, I believe. And this one sold for $75. So pretty good deal, and I think these have kind of just been going up in value. It's a great cover, cool looking book, digest size. Panels are reformatted on the interior. So it's got some cool things going for it. And for $75, probably not a bad deal. These don't really come up for sale very often at all anymore in Spain. And I think most of the Americans and foreign collectors have kind of cleared them out. So cool book. So that is kind of like the last of the eBay sales. So then we're going to get to the huge sale that just happened that everybody's talking about, which is the Heritage auction that just went down this past Sunday. The El Sorprendente Hombre Araña 128, the non-canon Mexican wedding issue, sold for a staggering $15,600. I think there's, I was bidding on it. I think John Z might have thrown some bids in there. A couple other guys were bidding on it. And up until the last, 5 minutes, it was sitting at $800. So I thought for sure, I was like, oh man, I have a copy already that I have already, but if I can get this one for cheaper, I was like, I'll just get this, even though it is lowish grade, but still presents well. So I bid it up to, I think, maybe $1,200, and then it shot up to $3,000, like right at the end of the end of the regular auction. But then I don't really know much about Heritage, but then it went to live bidding, and at that point it just went crazy. Went all the way up to $15,600. And this is like a huge day for foreign comics, huge day for this book, and it's definitely a record for this book. And a record, I think, for all foreign comics in general. So this people have kind of speculated that this would be the big book to have for foreign collectors, because it just has so many things going for it. It's that non-canon Spider-Man, the whole storyline of how they created this, basically alternate timeline where Gwen Stacy didn't die and her and Peter get married, because the Mexicans loved Gwen Stacy. There's just like so much going on with those non-canon books that you can't help but just become interested in them. And the crazy thing is that probably majority of Spider-Man collectors don't even realize or know these books are out there. So this book, this has some people thinking that just this could just be the start. Maybe not right away. Who knows? The next one could sell for less. But eventually this is going to be like the big foreign book. It by far is kind of like the most sought after of the non-canon books. There was one that sold a couple years ago. There was like maybe a year and a half to 2 years ago on eBay for $5,000. And then right after that, I was like, all right, I gotta just find a copy. I'll pretty much just at this point, but pay whatever. Found two guys that had a copy that were willing to sell it. One sold to another guy right before I got to him, and I think he sold his for pretty cheap. I think it was like $1,200, maybe $1,500. And then I bought my copy, which kind of after a few things happened, ended up coming back green label. So I pretty much ended up spending about $2,000 on it. The centerfold ended up was missing, but now at that point I was like, okay, well at least I have a copy, but I'll try and upgrade it as time goes on. But now I think I'm just content with my green label, because after this sale I really highly doubt I'll be able to upgrade my copy. So I've got a 4.0 green label of this book, Yeah, it's missing the centerfold, but I can live with that. I'm here for the cover mainly, especially when it's in a slab. Uh, but it's a huge foreign key, and I think a book that people are going to be hunting for a long time. And I think we're going to come to a point too where so many of these have probably left Mexico, and this is like Jose Luis Duran, who's the artist. He's considered like the great Mexican comic book artist. And I feel like there's going to become a point where the Mexican collectors are not going to really want their books to leave Mexico. This is like his greatest work, his most popular cover, his most popular non-canon Spider-Man. So I think they're going to start getting a little bit of territorial over these books, and wanting them to stay in the country, which I think probably has already started happening. So I think if you didn't get one before this sale, because they're already hard as hell to find anyways and real expensive, it's going to be really, really, really hard probably now to get one, unless you really want to spend a lot of money, or you get super lucky and find one. You could probably look in Spain or Argentina or all these other Spanish-speaking countries, because I don't think there's many collectors in Mexico that don't know about this book. I'd say there's probably no collectors that aren't hunting this book right now in Mexico. So yeah, I think it's funny to hear guys that aren't super into the foreign scene, like they hear about this book and they're like, oh, I got a coworker that's got a buddy that lives in Mexico. He's gonna go find me one, and I'm just in my head, I'm just laughing because I'm like, yeah, well, good luck with that, because we've all got buddies in Mexico that are combing the country for these, and they're not having much luck. So, but who knows kind of where the foreign market's gonna go from here. This was definitely a sign in the right direction for the upcoming Heritage auction. So I think a lot of people were kind of worried that auction was going to kind of be a dud, but after seeing this sale, it could pump some life into that auction with this hopefully getting a little bit of mainstream attention. But all right, I think I've talked about this enough, and I hope you guys have a good night, and I will see you next time. Bye.